Welcome to How to Cook That. I'm Ann Reardon and today we're making this amazing gravity-defying watering can cake. And both the pot plant down the bottom and the watering can are made out of rich, yummy chocolate cake. I'll show you how you can make that in a minute, but first of all I want to tell you about the prize packs we're giving away today. Each pack has in it a Make It a Great Week coffee cup and a copy of The Deep Enders. This will be a signed copy. This is a book you guys helped write and name the bad guy in. Thank you to everyone who has already left a review on Amazon and Goodreads. We love you guys. And as well as these two things, you will also get a $250 Amazon gift voucher. And I'll tell you how you can enter to win that at the end of this video. Also, I wanted to say thank you to King, the makers of Farm Hero Super Saga, who have sponsored today's video. Sponsors really help me and help the channel to run, so I'd love it if you could help them by downloading their game. I'll put a link to that below, and I'll show you some gameplay at the end because there's some new tricky bits to the game, and I'll show you how to get past those so you can get past those levels. First of all, to make this cake, what we're going to need to do is make 2 quantities of my rich chocolate cake recipe, and we'll bake some of that in a round cake tin, and I'll put all the recipe quantities on my howtocookthat.net website for you, and I'll link to that below. For this cake, I've made the baking paper come up higher than the tin, and that's just so the cake doesn't overflow in the oven when it rises. Bake the rest of the mixture in a terracotta pot. Now you need to make sure you line the base and the sides of the pot really well so that the cake batter doesn't come into contact with the pot. Then fill that up with the cake batter to about 3/4 full. Again, the baking paper should come up higher so that it doesn't overflow in the oven. And you want to bake those two until they're done, which is just when you can put a knife in the middle and it comes out clean. Now to float the watering can in the air, we need some heavy duty support for the cake. So cut some cake boards in the shape shown on the template and drill a hole through where it's shown. Now the lady at the cake decorating shop told me these were wood inside, but unfortunately they're not, they're just cardboard, and that's not going to be strong enough. So let's improvise and use a wooden ruler instead, and we'll use one to secure the top one too. We also need a hole in our baseboard, so just drill that all the way through. Now down the center of the cake we're going to use a threaded metal rod. Place one end through your cake board and screw the nut on so we can see how thick it is. And you'll also need feet under the cake board to hold it off the counter so that that support has room to sit there. Unscrew that and pull it out, and take note of how much room you need at the end there, and this will vary depending on how thick your cake board is at the bottom. Line that bottom nut up with the template, leaving the room for the board and the nut at the base, and then decide how high you want your watering can to hover above the plant, and you can make that gap bigger if you like. And then above the top cake board, but still inside the cake, mark the height of the rod there and cut that to size using a hacksaw, and then you want to wash that and the nuts and everything in the dishwasher. Cover the baseboard in foil and then put the threaded rod through with a nut underneath just like we did before, and then add a nut on the top side of the cake board and screw that up really tightly because this is going to support our cake. Now take some turquoise fondant and some Tylose powder. Now what the Tylose powder does is it just makes the fondant dry out really quickly so you don't have to wait days for it to go hard. So that means you'll need to work with it quickly as well, or it will set before you're ready. If you can't get Tylose powder, you can just make these fondant details a week ahead and leave them to dry out. Roll a thick snake and flatten it using a rolling pin, and then cut a strip to the length shown on the template. Cut off each of the corners off the ends and then just use your knife to round them out, just rubbing the side of the knife around it. Now lift that up and bend it around and grab the side template and make sure it easily fits over the can because we're going to have the fondant in between there as well. Cut another strip of fondant for the side handle, and we're going to curl the ends of this so it's easier to join onto the cake and it looks pretty. Roll the top one down and in and the bottom one down and out so the spiral's on the other side of it. Bend it around to match the handle on the template and then poke in some spaghetti. I'm going to use 2 pieces on the top and 2 pieces on the base, and this will help us attach the handle to the cake later on. Now for the nozzle of the watering can. Cut a thick circle in the sides shown on your template and then use the side of your knife to smooth it out just like we did on the edge of the handle. Take a ball of grey and squash it down on the sides using the palms of your hand to make a domed shape. Cut that into a neat circle using a cutter, or you could use a bowl if you don't have a round cutter, and then dampen the turquoise circle with a little bit of water and add the grey to the top. And now we need to make a hole on the angle of the support pole. Just hold it over the template and push through some spaghetti to make sure it's in the right spot. And once you're happy with that, use a wooden cake spike to make the hole bigger so that our support rod will fit down the middle there. Place it back down flat and use a cake pop stick to add more holes so it looks like a watering can nozzle. Now for extra support, I'm also going to add 2 cake pop sticks through the turquoise circle, so just poke those in there. Now for our plant, roll out some green fondant thinly and cut leaf shapes. Just go around and then peel off the excess green fondant. And then use your knife to gently draw a line down the middle of each leaf. Now to make those curved so they're not just flat, just rest the baking paper over a snake of fondant and leave those to dry out. And we'll also need to make the stem, just roll a really thin snake and leave that to dry out as well. Now that our cakes have completely cooled, you can tip it out of the pot and peel off the paper. Now to me this cake always looks a bit ugly, but it tastes so much better than any other recipe, so I just think that doesn't matter. Use a ruler to mark out 3 even layers and then cut it using a serrated knife. Take a round cake board with a hole on one side so we can fit this cake over our support rod and stack the cake onto the board. I'm using some chopped up chocolate bars on the frosting between each layer in the plant pot just for a little crunch and extra caramel flavour. Add the top layer and a little more simple syrup on top and then cover that whole thing in frosting and place it in the fridge. For the round cake, place the watering can template over the top and trim it to size. And then cut that into 3 even layers just like we did with the plant pot. Place the first layer onto a small round cake board, then brush it with some simple syrup over the top, and then continue to stack it up with frosting between the layers and cover the whole thing. Once that first layer of frosting is chilled in the fridge, add some slightly warmed frosting over the top and use it to smooth out the top and the sides, and then place that back in the fridge. Now take your plant pot cake and using baking paper to help you on the sides, lower it down the support bowl to the base and then peel off that baking paper. Roll out a strip of terracotta coloured fondant, measuring it to make it a few centimetres higher than the top of the pot, and then wrap that around the cake, lining up the bottom with the base of it and gently smoothing the sides with your hands. Just let the top edge just fold over the top there, and then at the back just neatly trim off the excess with scissors and smooth it down just using your thumb there. Then use a fondant smoother to smooth the sides and make sure they're straight just like a plant pot should be. Then use a ruler to mark 11.5 centimetres on the side and add an extra strip of fondant around the top, lining it up with that mark you made and using a little bit of water to make it stick. Crush up some Oreos in a food processor, or you could just smash them in a plastic bag using a rolling pin, and then add them to the top of the pot for dirt. Spread it out using the back of your spoon, and then once you've got it everywhere, just sprinkle a little bit more on top so that it looks real. Using your template, locate where the bottom of the nozzle will sit and add a nut to that level. Now add in something that can give us some temporary support and place the nozzle down on top. Add a flat cone shape of fondant with tylos in it on top of that, squeezing it tightly around the rod, and then add another nut. Now check on the template again what level that should be at. I'm going to trim some of the fondant down so I can make it lower. Now I've designed this whole template so the watering can and the nozzle can sit at a natural looking angle while hiding the rod. So you need to keep it exactly as it is. That's better. Now add the bottom skinny cake board covered in foil and place another nut on top and secure that tightly into place. Take the watering can cake off the cake board and mark the angle shown on the template, and then cut it diagonally down on that angle. I know this seems unusual, but I've made it all work out on the template. In my head it's going to work, so let's hope it works in real life. So it should look like this. Then cut off a tiny corner on the same angle. Using fondant, build up the support to make it the right angle for the watering can. And I'm doing this in a different colour fondant so you can see it, but this will be covered later on so we won't see it when we actually have the cake finished. Add the next support nut into place at the correct level, and then carefully add the triangle of cake that you cut off just a minute ago, and then cover the top of that in frosting so it will stick to the board. And add the next support board into place. Add a nut over the top of that and then tighten that well, because this board is going to hold the whole rest of the cake up. Then very carefully lower that large piece of the watering can cake into place, wriggling it around a little bit to get it in just the right position. Grab some more frosting and use it to cover the joins where the cake boards are, and also to cover the base of the cake in frosting too. Now add a circle of turquoise fondant to the base and another one to the top, lining it up with the edges of the cake. Then cut a strip of turquoise and wrap it around the sides of your can, and it's already starting to look good. Use your hands to smooth it and make sure it joins at the edges there so it's nice and neat. And then trim off the excess around where it joins to the nozzle. Add another thin strip around the top of the watering can, just wrap that around using a little bit of water to make it stick, and trim it off at the back. To cover our support in the round bit of the nozzle there, just add a strip around it so it looks nice and neat, and then add a thicker strip of turquoise around that middle area just to cover all of our fondant there. Add the handle into place, just poking the spaghetti into the top of the cake. Now I just realised we can't get any water into our watering can, it's completely closed. So trim across the top and remove some of the turquoise fondant. You can do this properly the first time when you do it, and replace that with black. When I design a cake for you and film it, I always film the first time that I've ever made it. I don't do it twice. So sometimes I need to do a little correction as I go, but you can do it the right way first time when you make it. Now that we've fixed that, add a little water to the side and then add the handle into place and push some spaghetti through to support it. And then add something just to hold that up while that water dries. Then roll a little ball of fondant and add it over the top of the spaghetti. Now put some coconut in a bowl and add some green food colouring and stir it really well until you're happy with the colour. To make a ganache, use some chocolate and some cream. Just pour the cream over the chocolate, and you want to microwave that for 30 seconds. Stir it well, and then microwave it for another 30 seconds, and now it should be really melted, so keep stirring just to incorporate the cream into the chocolate until it's nice and smooth. Spread that onto the base of the cake board. Now it's quite runny, but it will thicken as it cools, so quickly add the coconut, and this is going to make it look like grass, and this will be easier if you do it in sections until the whole board is covered so the ganache doesn't set before you've added your coconut. For the water, take some isomalt crystals and heat them over high heat until they're melted. And then pour spoonfuls onto non-stick baking paper, making long drips. Now this is super hot, so do not touch it. Remove the supports from the watering can and add some drips of isomalt around the rod, using some of the melted isomalt just to make it stick. Continue adding more drips coming from the holes in the nozzle, just like water dripping down. Then add your little plant and use isomalt just to make those leaves stick on instantly for you. And the watering can just seems to hang in mid-air above the plant, which makes it a pretty impressive looking cake. Okay, and now to play the game. I'm on level 51, but I'm going to go back to level 16 so that I can show you one of the new things which we have, which is the wind and the acorns, or the nuts, and the squirrels have to get the acorns. So what happens with the wind is if you join 3 together, just like you do in any of these sort of slide games, usually everything falls down from the top. But in this one, it doesn't necessarily do that. It will fall the way that you have swiped. So you see there we have a line of 2 pairs, and I'll move the third one across, and then you'll see everything, all the little cropsies fill up from the side. So depending which way you've swiped, depends which way everything will fill up from. So if I swipe up from the bottom on the water here, you'll see the cropsies come up from the bottom instead of from the side. So that's one new thing. The other thing is with the squirrel and the acorn, to get them together, you need to get rid of the stuff that's in between the two of them. So if we swipe down with that plum, that'll move the squirrel closer, and he swishes his tail and gets rid of the acorn. So that's quite easy for you to do. And then the one thing I do like about this game as well is once you've finished a level, if you still had moves left, you get to use those. So that helps you get extra points. So you'll see up in the top corner you've got stars, and by getting our extra moves and using them, we can fill up those stars. And the more stars you get, the better your little plant grows for the country fair. So then you get extra points and things from doing that. So we'll do that one and finish up that level because we've used up all our moves there. Awesome, level completed. And now I want to show you level 43, which the reason I want to show you this one is this one has hay and a little goat. And what you have to do is get the goat to eat the hay in order to get rid of enough of them to fill up the top. Now this one took me a little while to figure out. What you have to do basically to get the goat to move is you don't have to make a match right next to it. We can do that, but it's only going to move one space if you do that. So you're better off making a match as far away along the line from the goat as you can. So we'll match up these pairs and you'll see it will go all the way across to where we made the match. So that got rid of 2 hay bales. So if you match right next to it, it's only going to move 1. But now we need it to move up or down a level. We can't really do that right now, so we're just concentrating on getting our pears and tomatoes, which is what we need to do. We'll move it all the way back across to that row that we'd already done. Let everything else match up and do what it needs to do. So now if we could ideally make a match right at the top or right at the bottom, that would help move it in the direction we want to, but we don't have one of those. Let me show you the other thing you can do. If you have 3 and you can make it 4 like we can with these plums, then you're going to get a super cropsy. Let's have a look. A super plum. Now because we don't actually need plums on this level because we're not collecting them, it kind of disappeared, but what it did as it disappeared was made the other ones worth extra numbers, extra points there. So you can see that if it's one you actually need on the level, then it will just stay there and you'll match more of them in a row. Let's just move these pears across, line that up. And let's see, so now down the bottom we can make a line of 3 with those tomatoes, and that will move the goat down. So we'll swipe that down and it will just move down there. Now we've got 6 out of 14 of the ones we need for that. And then if we want to move it back up the top, we need to make a line there. We'll just move the carrots to make a super cropsy of the carrots. And again, we don't need carrots, so that one's going to disappear and just give us more points, which is great. And moving, shuffling on down. Now let's move it. We can't move it further up, but we'll move that one across there. We've still got 8 moves to go, so we've got a bit of time. We'll move the water up, and that will move the goat all the way up to the top. So we've got 8 of our hay bales now. We're doing well. Move that one so it moves it across to the next row. So see what I mean? What you're doing is anywhere in front of the goat, you're trying to get rid of things so that it will move all the way down to that spare spot. So at first when I started playing, I was just trying to get matches right next to it, and I could never get rid of all the hay bales. So we're nearly there with our hay bales. We still need quite a few pears and quite a few tomatoes, but hopefully we will get there. We are nearly there, just letting it all shuffle. We'll move that one, and that should get us enough hay bales. So now we can forget about the goat. All that we need is another 4 tomatoes, and we have another 3 moves to go. So I'm pretty confident we'll be able to do that. There we go, we've got them in. We now get showtime because we've got moves left, and we will be able to use up our spare moves and see if we can get some more stars up the top in the top corner. So we will just make another super sized plum there, and that's just going to give us extra points on everything around it, and then we'll line up those ones, pop those in, and our stars just went all the way up to the top. So we got 3 stars, which helps grow our plant that is in the little country fair section. So there you go. I hope those tips help you. You can click on the link below to download the game. It's free, so you can have fun with that. And to enter the competition to win a Make It a Great Week cup and the Deep Enders book and a $250 Amazon gift voucher, and there's 3 of those prize packs. To enter to win that, click on the link below. There are 2 questions there that you must get correct. I was surprised how many people had incorrect answers last time. You have to get it correct for your entry to be considered. And then we read all of the entries that have those 2 questions correct and choose the best ones, and the best ones will win the prize. It doesn't matter what country you're from, you can enter from anywhere in the world, so enjoy doing that. The link for that is below. Subscribe to How to Cook That for more cakes, chocolates and desserts. Click here for the recipe, here for more of my app cakes, and here for more of my videos. Make it a great week, and I'll see you on Friday.